Hello, everybody. Everybody, hello. Welcome to a special Tuesday edition of the Tracy Show. I know you all are so used to me being on Thursdays, but our guest was so special. I said, okay, I'm just going to make an exception and do this show on Tuesdays. And he agreed. Thank you for agreeing. Before we get to our guest, I have a couple of bills to pay. Uh, First, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe. We are trying to get to 500 by the end of the year. We're at 429 now. So your subscription helps us to get to that point. Subscribing is literally free, doesn't cost you anything. And I would appreciate it if you subscribe. You can also support me on Patreon. Patreon support helps me to get better lighting, get an extra computer, bring my little introduction back, which I can't play because I have the free StreamYard. So that less than a dime a day helps me to do that. So I'd appreciate your support. You can also support my personal GoFundMe campaign that I started to kind of help me to meet some personal expenses that have gotten out of hand. Um, just they're at the point. Well, I don't want to get into that, but just know that all the $2,500 that I want to raise will go towards that. And finally, we're going to ask that you contribute to the First Baptist Church North Drama Academy. That is a drama academy that I started through my church that empowers inner city youth through dramatic expression that will end in a production. So we have a fall academy, we have a spring academy. Our goal is to raise $10,000. So your contribution of 5, 10, or 10,000 would be very helpful. And I'll get to the candidate's website here in just a little bit. You may introduce yourself.
Hi, Tracy. My name is Douglas P. Marsh. I'm a journalist and musician in Michigan, and I was nominated by the Green Party of Michigan to run for United States Senate.
Well, that was the quickest intro. Okay, so um you are running in a very interesting race that a lot of us are watching. Um, and I know as a green, well, let me rephrase this question. Did the Green Party approach you to run, or did you approach the Green Party to run?
I answered a call for candidates in spring of 2023 when the candidates at that time were for the Republicans, Mike Rogers, and for the Democrats, Alyssa Slotkin. And I thought those were really awful candidates. They both had pretty sordid histories, and I wanted there to be an alternative for people on the ballot and wanted to show that regular people can be politically engaged and run for office and try to build a movement that's independent of the billionaire owned and controlled parties.
Yep. And are you on the ballot?
Yes, I was on the ballot in 2024, and I will be on the ballot again in 2026.
I am so glad to hear that because we all know ballot access is one of my main issues. It is so difficult in states that make you gather petitions um, just to get on that ballot. So that's really good. So what? Because we're gonna get to the elephant in the room because I got to get to it. I'm going to get to it, but I'm trying to ease my way into it. Um, what made you want to run for this particular seat? Because there's several things in Michigan. There's governor. The governor seat is an open seat. There's Congress. And you said no, United States Senate is where I want to be. What made you say that?
Well, as I said, in spring of 2023, the Green Party had put out an open call for candidates for U.S. Senate, and that was the call that I answered. This particular election cycle, the Green Party of Michigan has candidates for all 13 congressional districts. We have a candidate for Secretary of State, for governor, for lieutenant governor, for the state attorney general position, for the State Board of Education, for Wayne State University Board of Regents, and for the Michigan State University Board of Governors. And we also have a number of candidates running for state House and state Senate seats. So I come with a slate that totals 29 candidates in this election cycle.
That's a really good number. That's a really good number of candidates because it's so hard to get people to run, especially run outside of the uniparty, right? It's that's incredible. That's really incredible. Um, and I put your website wrong. I forgot the E on your website at the end. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm gonna get that corrected.
But you don't need to do /home. You can get there just from
Oh, just the org?
electmarsh.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So I'm gonna here it is. The elephant in the room, gotta address it. The current race. So, the Democratic primary got a whole lot of attention because um, Israeli Haley Stevens was running against Abdul Sayed. And I'm not going to get his name right, but that's as close
Abdul
as I can do.
Abdul El Sayed.
Sayed, not Sayed, Sayed. So that race takes place. And then Rogers, he ran unopposed. Right?
Well,
Nobody
Rogers
ran against.
Rogers had about 4 primary opponents who all dropped out conveniently, uh,
Oh, I
which
wonder whose idea that was.
yeah, there may
Um,
have been a little bit of internal party politicking happening in Michigan.
right.
Uh,
So there's a difference between you and Israeli Haley Stevens. But if I'm being honest, I'm looking at what Syed has said, and I'm looking at what you're saying. Tell me the difference because I know he's working within the Democratic Party, so that's like okay, we can't trust him. But besides that, what is the difference?
there's foreign policy differences that I could get into. Uh, and as you pointed out, in his acceptance speech, in his victory speech after the primary, he turned right around and praised Haley Stevens for all the great work that she does for Michigan. So more recently, I saw him in the media talking about a warm call that he had with former President Barack Obama. To me, Barack Obama was a great disappointment in a leader who had campaigned on hope and change, and then proceeded to deliver a lot of the same policies and positions that prior presidents had given us, as far as favoring big finance and big pharma and bombing foreign countries. Things didn't fundamentally change under Obama. And so Abdul El Sayed, I think, will be changed more by the Democratic Party than he will change the Democratic Party, as we've seen
I've
with
heard
many
people
other
say that.
politicians.
And that was my concern with although he's not DSA, he has said I'm not DSA didn't endorse him, but he has a lot of their policies. I personally don't see the benefit in trying to change a corrupt party from within. They're not going to change, so just leave. That would be what I would say. I'm like, well, you all are, your supporters say, don't take APAC money. Then you said, no, we're going to take it. You're not. listening. So I think that's a good assessment that you made. But when I looked at your policies, I, I mean, he's for Medicare for all, you're for Medicare for all. But I think he talks about it in terms of capitalism. And I talk about it because a lot of people know I'm into the modern monetary theory. I don't think it's necessary to increase taxes. The US prints its own money. They could allocate it without any tax increases. I just don't see that. But talk about the framework of capitalism and how it's hurt people in Michigan.
Well, Michigan was an economy based on the automotive trades. And in the 1970s and continuing on into the 80s, when they destroyed the labor unions and offshored all the manufacturing with policies like the North American Free Trade Agreement, it really hollowed out the foundations of the economy of Michigan, which subsequently collapsed. And so Michigan has had one of the worst economies as far as jobs for working people for a couple generations now. So that's something that we want to try to fix. And I would agree that part of the process of fixing that would be to empower working people to take control of their own economic destiny, sort of the old, you could call it a classic economic Bill of Rights if you wanted to invoke some of those historical ideas from American history. But to be sure,
Absolutely.
you know, if we want to differentiate um, between myself and the major party candidates, the Republican Mike Rogers is a Florida resident and who gives used car salesman vibes, and I don't think he has any transformational policy positions or radical solutions. I think you'll get a lot more of the same with that candidate. And I met El Sayed and attended some events that he spoke at. One of the points he made that troubled me was that we can't use all these missiles bombing and attacking Iran because we need those to protect Taiwan from China. So we have this kind of alternative hawkish Democrat sort of, you know, we can use our military influence abroad. We just have to do it in the right way. Like we need to arm Ukraine against Russia. We need to arm Taiwan against China. So I don't think that you'll get foreign policy too radically different out of El Sayed when it comes down to it. Of course, the apartheid and genocide in Gaza and the West Bank and the war crimes that Israel continues to commit. I believe El Sayed is sincere in wanting to end the US support for those practices. But once ensconced within the Democratic Party, we see what's happened to other politicians who have taken strong stances in that they temper those stances and begin to acknowledge a so-called right for Israel to defend itself, Iron Dome, aid, non-military aid, things that are compromises and capitulations that I would wager El Sayed will be willing to make once he gets through campaigning.
And for me, I think the thing that's kind of bothersome is him and several other DSA candidates. They see it through the, well, your money is going to support this war. The us funding Israel, and that money could be going here. And while that's a valid argument, what I think is missing that the Green Party should be speaking to, I believe, is the humanity. Like those are people that are being killed. Let's put the money aside. Let's just take the money, put it aside, and talk about these are people. These are children being bombed in schools, hospitals being denied power, people being killed in their homes, fathers having to bury their sons, mothers having to bury their. It's like the humanity has disappeared as their support. And I'm wondering how, if you're even communicating on that level, or are you arguing it from more of a, well, your money could be going to us instead of them?
I personally joined the Green Party in part as the party of people, planet, and peace, with an idea to radically reduce the United States' military footprint around the world. And I believe that would go a long way to reducing the amount of suffering and death, unnecessary suffering and death around the world, if the arms manufacturers, your Raytheons and your Booz Allen Hamiltons and what have you, the all the merchants of death, if we stop doing government contracts with merchants of death and operating strategic bases all over the world, surely the amount of violence and destruction would be reduced, because that's all a big profit machine that the United States sits in the driver's seat of, I believe.
Absolutely. And it just makes me scratch my head. I'm like, okay, like I said, it's not a terrible argument. It's not, because we are allocating funds for that. And those funds could very well be spent here. But I'm like, okay, nobody's gonna mention that people are dying. No, like nobody's gonna mention this. We're just gonna wipe. And the whole Ukraine thing, to be honest, I'm so confused about that. So people talking to me about Ukraine, I have to do more thinking about it. Because I just don't understand it. I know that some people like the Green Party are for us not funding Ukraine, but then like, well, does that mean that Russia gets to overtake that whole thing? It's it's something that I need to be doing more research about, which is why I've never asked about it, because I don't fully understand it. Um, but in general, I get that the Green Party is about peace, but I'm wondering, there are areas of the state where police enforcement is a problem. I have several friends that live in Michigan, mostly Detroit, and they're all saying, "Hey, this is a problem." What type? Because it's not on your website, but what type of, or do you have any proposals to like reforming the police? Do you think we should just get rid of them? Do you think we should reform them? What is your stand on that?
I think investments should be made in communities such that the problem of crime is addressed at the source, at the cause of crime, which tends to be poverty and a lack of opportunities and resources. So
Understood. And like it's, yeah. Mhm.
I don't think, the defund the police and abolish the police movements, I think, are usually fairly clear that uh, community safety and people who are entrusted with keeping communities safe is always a policy priority. But the current paradigm and structures of mass incarceration and militaristic policing are systems that don't keep people safe. They make communities more dangerous, and they really just kind of escalate violence and get a lot of innocent people caught in the crossfire. So yeah, I think giving communities the resources and opportunities and letting them be self-sustaining, uh, self-empowered communities is the way forward, so that police and
Yep.
prisons are not necessary. They're not necessary now. They don't solve the problems they purport to solve. And there's a reason that the United States incarcerates more people than any other country in the world. And it's not because people in the United States are more inclined to commit crimes. It's because for policymakers who are dealing with the challenges of poverty and lack of resources and opportunities, they start to fall into this trap where, eh, you know, what do they say? If you have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
Yep, that's a good point. And I finally got the right website up, so you can go right to electmarsh.org. Electmarsh.org is the website. So I want to get right into your platform, but before I get into that, is there going to be a debate? And if there's a debate, will you be included in it?
In 2024, there was a televised debate, and I attempted to participate, but I was shut out by the news studios and the uh, duopoly candidates. So if there are debates, I'm more than willing to participate, and I'll be knocking at the door. And if they refuse to allow me to participate, we will do what we did in 2024 and stage a little protest.
And challenge them to a debate. I've been telling every candidate that's been on here, challenge them to a debate. Just throw it out there.
Yeah, at the
You have
level of U.S. Senate, I think they're careful to keep radical ideas and true popular policies off the stage.
right, and keep in mind, most people don't watch mainstream media anyway. Nobody watch it. Who's watching? Nobody sits around. Oh, gotta watch ABC. And let me watch. No, but you know, you may do better like going on independent stations and talking. They may be more, but I'm just throwing out ideas. So let's get to the platform. The first thing I have to ask, and I kept trying to find it, I don't see a donation button anywhere on your site, like nowhere. Is that intentional?
Well, uh, I just found someone willing to volunteer to be my treasurer and have just spun up a campaign bank account fairly recently. And so I think I'll probably get a donation portal live soon. Of course, my position on campaigning and donations is that the amount of money that goes into these operations is absurd and wasteful. And I think that we should pull back from this idea that we have to buy the election to be successful, or that we need to raise millions of dollars. In 2024, Alyssa Slotkin won the race, and she raised and spent something like $42 million. Now
Well,
imagine the
we're
kind
not,
of
yeah, and here's what I'll say. Most
imagine the kind of good that $42 million could do for people,
Absolutely.
and instead it's being spent on advertisements and consultants and really who knows what else. And that whole system kind of sickens me. And another thing that I say is, if you have money to give to a politician running for office, you're not like me, because I don't have that kind of money to just throw around. So if you're like me and you don't have money to spend on political campaigns because you're living paycheck to paycheck and getting gouged by the landlord and life is unaffordable, then just give me your support, talk to your friends about me, and give me your vote in November, and we'll see what we can do on a shoestring. Because part of the Green Party is we don't take big corporate PAC money,
Right.
and small dollar donations are great, but I know that everybody is scraping by the same as me. So if you share that experience of life with me, let's see what we can do without the big bucks.
I see where you're going. Okay, so I'm this weird person that likes raising money. I don't know what it is about me. I have no problems asking for it. Now, of course, I don't believe in PAC money. I believe we should have publicly financed elections. So I try to keep it, within reason. But yes, there are definitely other things people can do. Share your socials, volunteer, canvas, those type of things. But it's gonna take you got to get up some yard signs and some buttons, maybe a t-shirt. That's just not free. But that's me. And we can agree to not disagree, because I understand exactly what you're saying. Um,
Like, in addition to publicly funded elections, uh, I don't think that the public should foot the bill for the Republican and Democrat primaries.
oh no, I'm
You
talking about
know,
opening it up to everybody. I'm talking about
uh,
Green,
yeah.
PSL,
Well,
everybody. Like,
I'm just saying also, like, these primary elections, they generate all this media and keep the Republicans and the Democrats in the headlines while all the other parties and community organizations are left in the dark. None of the big media cared that we nominated 29 candidates by the time the primaries were done. We could shout it from the rooftops. We might get a small mention somewhere. But, you know, the other aspect of our elections that have gotten out of control is the amount of time that they drag on. In other
oh
countries,
yeah,
elections
they are.
are limited to 2 or 3 months. 2 or 3 months is really plenty of time to introduce yourself to a constituency and say, like, this is where I stand and this is what I want to get done in the office that I'm running for. And
I
so,
agree with that.
sure,
100% agree with
it
that.
is time for me to get serious and start to raise a little bit of money and get people knocking
Yeah, we're
doors.
not talking about millions.
But I think
No,
this is the time that
hundred.
we should get serious about raising money and knocking doors, is about now and not
Yeah. A,
6 months ago.
a good 50, 60, 70,000. It does not have to be in millions. Um, as a matter of fact, in your race is Rayleigh Haley. Yes, I'm gonna call her this. I see you in the comments. I just call Haley Stevens is Rayleigh Haley. I don't know who I heard that from, but it's just stuck. So $60 million. That's ridiculous fundraising. That's okay. We don't need that. But asking a person to give $1 or $2, okay, that's to me, that's where you get it. Not this, hey, take your whole paycheck and no. So that's audience is not what I'm talking about. I'm definitely not talking about surpassing food and your needs. Don't do that. No. But you can also save. That's another thing. You can save 50 cents a week or $1 a week and put it together and make a one-time contribution. So there's plenty of ways to do it. But I want to talk about something else that is still an issue. And for me, this makes no sense. Please explain to me why Flint, Michigan still does not have clean water. I don't understand it. I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. Why is this still happening and it's 2026?
Yeah, it's troubling. Really traces back to disastrous decisions that Governor Rick Snyder made uh, in backroom deals with various business interests. It was really a sacrifice zone kind of situation where the then governor said, "We're going to make some money, and we don't so much care if people get hurt." Years later, the attorney general fumbled the case and they weren't able to prosecute people who were certainly implicated in these crimes. Something I'll never forget is when Barack Obama visited Flint and
Oh, the
pretended to
clean
drink the
water.
tap
Yeah,
water.
the clean. I'm like, bro, you know that water was clean. Let me shut
Yeah.
up. This show is not about Obama. This show is not about Obama. This is about you.
But so
But
it's just
yeah,
kind of everybody's kicked the can down the road, and not everyone in Flint has tainted water, but there are still a lot of residential properties that have tainted water and are still dealing with uh, a lack of access to clean drinking water. And, well, even, it's not even suitable for bathing or cooking because it's got heavy metal toxicity going. So
it,
I think Flint
everything's not
was
to be
just.
the case. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I did not mean to
uh,
interrupt.
Oh, I was just going to say Flint was really just kind of one of the forerunners for these people to find out what they could get away with, and now it's spreading to other communities. I would say Flint is not alone, and perhaps it never has been, in essentially being an economic and environmental sacrifice zone. Uh,
Now, on your website, I did find one little thing that I was like, "Ugh," and I'll just read it and you can tell me what you meant by this. It says Governor Whitmer needs an ally in the US to stop Line 5 and the Line 5 tunnel. And here's what I'll say about Governor Whitmer. I think she's just like the last governor. Like she's not out here saying, "Hey, you know what? You did do something wrong. We're going to bring charges." To me, she's just a corporate Democrat.
Specific to the Line 5 tunnel, Whitmer and Democrat Attorney General Dana Nessel have fought to shut down the pipeline operations, and ultimately their authority was limited because they're only state level officials, and
Okay.
federal courts determined that this was an international pipeline and that Michigan officials didn't have the authority to stop its operation. So
Wait a minute. I'm sorry.
specific.
I do not mean to interrupt you. Michigan is international?
The pipeline runs through
The pipeline
Canada,
is international.
Wisconsin,
Oh, it runs
and
through Canada.
Michigan.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so it involves multiple states and multiple countries, the pipeline. And so federal courts said, sorry, Michigan, you cannot, through your judicial processes, stop the operation of this pipeline. So specific to Line 5, that's what I meant, that uh, despite Whitmer and Attorney General Nessel's ostensible best efforts, they were not successful in stopping the operation of this extremely risky and uh, pipeline. And so if we are to address that issue, it's going to have to go into a higher governmental body of authority, such as the Senate and the House.
Yeah, I understand. So now I'm going to ask a stupid question because here it goes. So you said the line runs through parts of Canada and Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, so Wisconsin's gonna have, okay, so Michigan's probably gonna have a Democratic governor. Wisconsin's probably gonna have a Democratic governor. Don't know about Canada because my knowledge of Canadian politics is next to zero. So couldn't there be some type of coalition formed between those areas that affects and says, hey, the three of us combined want this stop?
Yeah, and I think the people who are really leading the resistance are Native American tribes who are impacted. It's
Okay.
their tribal water resources that are being impacted the most, or most directly. And they've got a lot of experience in resisting, uh, you know, development. And so I think that's really where I would look to for leadership and coalition building. But I agree that it will probably take activists and elected officials in Canada, Wisconsin, and Michigan to address this problem. We did just recently win in the Michigan Supreme Court a battle over the tunnel that they are trying to construct through the Straits of Mackinac underneath the Great Lakes. They're trying to construct a tunnel to house this pipeline. Right now, the pipeline just runs along the lake bed and is subject to anchor strikes. It was designed to operate for 20 years. It's been operating for 50 years. It's a ticking time bomb. And their proposed solution was to dig a tunnel under the lake bed and put all the oil through that.
Okay, now I'm not the smartest person, but that does not sound like a good idea. That just doesn't sound like I'm like, well, wait a minute, because this
Yeah.
is I'm thinking of all the things that could possibly go wrong with that.
Yeah, it's the biggest freshwater reservoir in
And
North
does we
America.
want to build under? I'm like,
And
okay,
do we
so
really want to just keep pumping millions of billions of gallons of oil under it and through it? It's just defies common sense and all good reason.
so Theus has a question here. He posted, and I'll just read it because he posted it on my page. Sounds like a decent man, but doesn't sound like he's in it to win. Sounds more like an organizer or a pundit than a candidate. That's just Theus's opinion, and opinions are like noses. Everybody has at least one. Um, I want to talk about next housing market reforms. So on your website, you say every United States citizen should have access to stable, affordable housing. Private equity companies should not own residential properties. Residential rates should be tied to an area's prevailing wages and leases awarded on a basis of need. Short-term rentals in particular must be regulated in order to ensure that housing is available in our communities for those people who run our communities: cashiers, cleaners, cooks, teachers, mechanics, line workers, etc. Talk about this because I can imagine Lake Michigan obviously is in Michigan. So there's parts of the state that have like a higher living costs than other parts of the state. And if you have private equity firms basically just buying up the property and sitting on them, then my assumption would be that homelessness probably is another issue that could happen if these private equity funds continue to do what they're doing.
Yeah. And really there needs to be a huge change in housing policy so that we don't unnecessarily limit the amount of housing that can be built for the public. Right now, there's something called the Faircloth Amendment, which caps the amount of housing that the federal government is permitted to develop for people. And as you pointed out, private equity owning residential property just doesn't need to happen. And there are just so many structural incentives that stop housing from being affordable and manipulate the markets. So yeah, on a big top level policy uh, angle, I think we need to really do some radical rethinking about how we develop housing and distribute housing, both in Michigan and across the country.
Now that is an issue just everywhere. And I don't know if this has happened in Michigan, but at least in Indiana or Indianapolis, really, you have high-rise condos going up and they're mostly vacant because of the rents are 23 and $2,400 per month, and the income can't keep up with the income and what the lease agreement amount. Those two are so diametrically opposed to each other. I think there was one study that said that if you live in Indianapolis, you would have to work like 80 hours a week just for a one. Now, I don't know what it is in Michigan. You would have to work 80 hours a week to afford a one bedroom. That's ridiculous to me because I'm like, wait a minute, how are we? I wish that candidates would talk more about affordability because we can't afford it. And even with people that like myself, I'm a homeowner and I'm barely getting by because property taxes are going up. Um, and it, I don't know if that's a question or just a thought I'm having. Um, but you may go ahead.
Oh, I think you're spot on with a lot of that. Like I said, there really just needs to be a whole raft, a holistic policy package to attack housing on so many of these levels, including, like I said, development incentives and distribution regulations.
Now, Theus wants to know what is Douglas's thoughts on this? Convert dead, dying malls and motels into affordable housing alternatives instead of being turned into big development regulations people can't afford.
I think that could certainly be a piece of the puzzle. I also believe that home ownership should be easier. Home ownership is diminishing, I think, for people of my generation. Less of us own the housing that we reside in than the generation before us, and things are trending always in that direction. And I think that's intentional and something that we could work to reverse. So both the conversion of properties and also the ownership model, uh, I think could be changed.
Yep. And on your website, now here's the one we're going to get to. So, your Democratic opponent has definitely has said, I want Medicare for all. And on your website, you say that every United States citizen should have access to quality health services by default. The best way to ensure this is with a single payer system. Many other countries, rich and poor, have accomplished this. State run facilities provide quality services to any citizen, while private facilities also operate, usually with shorter waits and nicer rooms. It is not rocket science. We simply need leaders who cannot be bought by insurance and pharmaceutical lobbyists. So, my question to you, what is the difference between Syed saying, oh, I'm for Medicare for all, and you saying, I'm for Medicare for all? What's the difference?
I haven't read El Sayed's book. I understand he wrote a book about Medicare for all, but I don't subscribe to the idea that the system that has been constructed just needs improving. I think we need a new deal for healthcare that's truly universal and publicly run. where the public is engaged democratically with an institution that helps set prices and limits, well, helps set prices and ensures that hospitals are run efficiently, cost efficiently.
Yeah, and I don't think I've heard him address what my concern is, because I don't know if a lot of people don't realize that when I don't even want to call us the extreme left, because we're not, we're right where most Americans think. That when I say Medicare for all, I don't want Anthem running it, Blue Cross Blue Shield running it, um,
Right,
Cigna,
right.
Humana, I don't want any, I want, I know they'll never disappear. We're always going to have private insurance. We just will. It's a business model. But I don't want them touching public health care. I don't want their
Yeah,
hands on it. I don't want them using AI to deny services. And I think that's the biggest difference between what you're saying, which makes more sense to me, than what Syed is saying. Because what he's saying is, oh, well, let's just work in the system. Well, the system doesn't work.
yeah,
You have people filing bankruptcy because of medical debt.
yeah. I'm carrying about $4,000 in medical debt right now, I think.
And that's small.
Yeah,
Um, I had medical expenses last year that easily was reached up to $5,000 and $6,000. Now I had insurance, but it was coming out of my check. I had to pay so much before I got to that. But I think there's just a real difference. And I know, the media is who the media is, but I think if the public was aware that, hey, no, we're not talking about Anthem running it. We're not talking about United Healthcare running. No, we don't want their hands anywhere on this, because they've proven that they cannot run it successfully. And I don't know if I'm suggesting to you, if is there a written plan that you have set out to achieve this? Because if you look at the United States Senate and the Congress, well, they're all the Congress, but there's two parts. I would say about 80 to 90% of them are against single payer health care. Now, the health care that they receive, oh, it's great. Their spouses are covered, their children are covered up until 26. I mean, they have um the Mercedes Benz, no, that's not even a good car. The Jaguar, no, that's not a good one. I'm trying to think of a high level. The
Bentley.
Rolls Royce, yes, they have Rolls Royce health insurance, and I have Oscar Mayer Baloney insurance.
Hmm.
And they'll tell you, oh, well, it's socialism. Okay, then get rid of your health care. If you think it's socialism, okay, you pay out of pocket for it.
Oh, that's not socialism. Socialism is democracy in the workplace.
Well, we know that, but I mean, if I hear one more person, it's socialism, I'm like, and so Social
Yeah.
Security isn't socialism? Okay. I mean, it has social right there in the title. It's right there. But it just amazes me that the media just miseducates people about Medicare for all. It's just like, this has got to be intentional. I can't even think of anything else because it's so terrible.
Yeah, I think the solution is something, you know, my policy planks that I put up on my website are really meant to just capture the essence of a few ideas that I think are really important to everyone in Michigan, all the working families and working people in Michigan. I don't write fully fleshed out policy papers on these things. I think that those decisions on how to craft those policies are best made in a collaborative process with more people who have this kind of vision. And I really want to engage people. One of your commenters had said, like, it doesn't seem like he's in it to win it. I'm not in this to raise the most money, and I don't have any illusions about how elections work in the United States of America in 2026. But what I do believe is that we should all be mobilizing, organizing, and coming together to have these discussions in a productive way to begin to build the alternatives that we want to see, so that when the opportunity arises, we are prepared.
And think about this, Syed. I'm gonna get this man's name right if it be the last thing I do. Syed, is that right?
I think
Syed
so.
has the endorsement of Kamala Harris. I shouldn't even have to say nothing. Like that should be just it right there. Okay. But anyway, next point, because people say I stay too much on that point, but here comes my next one. So, ceasefire. So, the United States of America should use all of its economic and diplomatic leverage to affect permanent ceasefires in Gaza and the Ukraine. The continued supply of weapons and funding of proxy wars, apartheid, and genocide is unconscionable. Problem? You didn't name any African countries. And
Fair enough.
um, um, because the same thing that they're doing in Gaza and Ukraine is the same thing they're doing in Syria, Libya, or is Libya in the Middle East? I think Libya is in Africa. Pretty sure it is. I think. I got to think about where it's at on the map, but you get my point. I know Syria is in Africa, but I'm just saying. Um, Also another point.
Syria is in the Middle East as well.
I thought Syria was in Africa.
But yeah, of course, the number of countries that the United States
Oh, but
drops bombs on and says
yeah, I was
that they're
gonna
not
say,
at war
wait a
with
minute.
is, I guess, I crafted this website in 2024. Now it needs to be updated to include Iran. I think Trump went back to bombing Yemen.
Yemen,
Uh,
thank you. I was like, wait a minute. I'm trying to find something here. I'm trying to find something here in the background just to make sure. Because I thought Syria was in Africa. I literally thought that. But no, it's in
it's next to
Asia.
Iraq.
Well, yeah, okay, Tracy. You need to go study your map. But the point I'm making is still valid that yeah, some African countries are mixed up there. But the reason I'm bringing this up, obviously, we have too many military bases. It's up to over 800 now. Why? Why? And most importantly, why? There's no reason to have all of these military bases around the world, even if those countries are willing to pay for it. Because I'm just against it completely. I know some people are like, "Oh, I'm for it as long as they pay for it." No, I'm against it totally. I think we do the jobs guarantee program so that the soldiers that are affected will have jobs when they come back home. But I'm not for having all these military bases all even around the country. I don't see why we have them, but especially globally, I don't get it.
I agree. I suppose I have a lot of family who are members of the military. I understand that defending the nation is a priority for all nations, but clearly we're doing something other than strictly defending the nation uh, within our borders. There's a very different project going on where we are projecting US interests across the entire globe and attempting to maintain something like a unipolar dominance. And I think that's increasingly becoming an outdated way of thinking about the world and international relations, and just the changes haven't caught up to the people who are still in charge.
Yep. And the African countries I was thinking of was Somalia, Nigeria, and Mali. I was like,
Yes,
no, I'm gonna correct myself
those
before I get off here.
those I will agree are in Africa, and I think I don't know the full extent of the United States military interventions in those countries, but uh, I
It
know
says
that.
here, because I did a quick AI search. Yes, I used AI, so don't kill me. Says that the U.S. African Command regularly conducts ongoing counterterrorism airstrikes against ISIS and I'm not going to even try this. Aha Shabab militants in Nigeria. The U.S. launched targeted strikes against ICE-link elements in Sukot State, making a rare military intervention in northwest Nigeria. In Mali, it says that we are weighing potential military actions and drone strikes against Al Qaeda, which I thought had disappeared, affiliated groups. So, yes, those are the three African countries. I'm like, oh, I don't know why I thought Libya was in Africa. It is not. But now I know which three countries it is, so I stand absolutely corrected. Um, I have been making a plea, and I said I was going to do it, but since your donation link isn't up yet, I won't. But I will make this plea. So, if you live in Michigan, I know Douglas can use volunteers. That much I know. There are how many people in the state of Michigan?
How many people in the state of Michigan total? Oh gosh, ask AI. What's the population? Population of Michigan. I
See, I
don't
know
have the number
Indiana's
off the
right off
top
the
of my
top of our
head.
head. I'm like, oh, there's 6.5
10
million
million.
people. Okay, so there's no way the Douglas can meet 10 million people by himself. He is one person. I don't know how many volunteers Douglas has, but I know he could use more. I know his campaign could use door knockers, phone bankers, text people. So go to his website here, and there is a contact section at the very top right-hand corner, and let him know that you want to volunteer. I'm certain that he would be appreciative of your efforts. Um,
Thanks. That's
it
exactly what we want the most, is for people power to come together under the values of the Green Party, the party of people, planet, and peace. Our four main values are grassroots democracy, social justice, ecology, and peace. And if you're in Michigan and you want cash-based reparations for the people who are descendants of chattel slaves, and you want things like universal basic income and data center moratoria, you want to be organizing with the Green Party.
I didn't even get to data centers, and I'm still trying to understand
It's a
that
whole can of worms.
logically. In my head, it doesn't make sense. I'm like, there's this big yellow thing in the sky that you could use to power your stations, but you're using more. Okay, does it? It just literally makes no sense to me. But that's not again what this show is about. So I want to thank everybody that joined me. I do have an interview Thursday with another Green Party member, Pete Karras, who's running in Wisconsin, but that interview will be at 8 o'clock. And the reason I'm doing it at 8 o'clock is because I am in a play and the rehearsals are from 5 to 7. So I got to get home, set up, and do that type of thing. So I will see you Thursday at 8. And there's one more announcement I want to make sure I get to. I'm bringing this up on my screen here because this Saturday, um, um, I'm gonna bring this up here. I'm bringing this up here, so I just have a little. No, I'm getting it, guys. I promise I'm getting it. I promise I'm getting it. I promise I'm getting it. Um,
What play are you in?
Yes, I know. It's like speak amongst yourselves. No, I'm getting this because I want to make sure that the audience knows about this. Um, no, we're gonna go to my page. This will be easy. Uh, there we go. Okay, so I'm gonna share this screen because this is a very, very, very important announcement that's coming. This Saturday, August the 15th at 6 o'clock p.m. This channel for the past 4 years has always sponsored a State of the Black Voter. For the past 4 years, it has been focused on females, but this year we are focusing on the state of the Black male voter. We will have at least three. We have three confirmed gentlemen that will be here at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mark your calendars. Make sure you're at that very, 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 very important discussion. I can't emphasize how important that will be. Looking forward to that and having everybody come in and make their comments.
Do you
They
have room for another panelist on that?
possibly yes.
The
If
uh,
wait a minute, let me
the
fact check this.
co-chair
He
the
has to be
co-chair of the Green Party of
advocacy.
Michigan. Yeah, the co-chair of the Green Party of Michigan recently revived the Black Caucus of the Green Party of Michigan and has been doing work uh,
Well, okay.
on reparations activism. His name is Clive Shabazz. He would love to talk about the Black male voter.
Well, let's put it like this. You have my email address. He would literally have to contact me probably tomorrow
Okay, I'll get the
because
message
I
to him.
had to give him the link. So
Yeah.
I had to give him the link, and I'm not one of those ones. I do not like waiting last minute to do. Oh, just wait till Saturday. No. I know you.
All right. So the
So
talk is on Saturday.
August the 15th at
All
6
right.
o'clock p.m.
All right. I'll try to get him in touch with you, Tracy.
Yep. So make sure he does it. No, I'm not going to say tomorrow because tomorrow's Wednesday. I would say by Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah. So if he wants, if he doesn't, he could just watch. But
You say that poster for the talk is on your website.
it's actually not. I don't have a website because I
Oh, okay.
can't afford one. That's on a Facebook page, but I can email you a poster. I can
Oh yeah,
email
do
you
that.
a poster.
Okay, great.
But yes, everybody be there. This is like I said, the other thing, you will not see my face. Usually I take part in the discussion. I will not on Saturday. Obviously, I'm not male. So I'll be backstage, kind of running everything. Um, but we look forward to a fantastic discussion. Just eye-opening. We do have some people that identify as Democrats, but we got a whole lot of independents, a whole lot. So this isn't your typical uh, discussion. So yes, but yes, I do have room for one more. Absolutely, positively. Thank you all so very, 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 very much. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Like, share, comment, subscribe. And finally, like, share, comment, subscribe. I will see you this Thursday at 8 o'clock p.m. Remember that time we're starting at 8 o'clock, not 7 o'clock. So just remember that because I have rehearsals that I have to be at. Thank you all so very much. Thank you, Douglas, for your time. Remember, the duopoly, we had to destroy it. That's our mission, that's our goal, and we're gonna get this done. Thank you so much and have a fantastic evening.